Well, John, welcome once again.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure.
It's good to be here.
Great. So we'll go ahead and get started with questions. Let's see, in the front row right there.
Oh, Marvel. Yeah, I had met all the folks from Marvel a couple of times, and they're terrific. And the whole AntMan thing is just a rumor. I haven't heard anything about it, so there's no
yes, right here.
on there. Oh, that I just mentioned they're going to be doing some fun stuff with the music and the characters around this holiday season when the movie's out in the theaters. It's going to be terrific because of the with the characters and stuff. We always try to. One of the things that I always love with the movies that I make, I try to do really fantastic walk around costumes and characters. Working with Diana Kuriyama and the group at Disney, they do such a great job. And then I always like to think about sort of where in the parks we could put the characters so they have a sense of place. You know, like if you've been to Disneyland, the little Pixie Hollow area for the Tinkerbell characters. You know, that was something that was really important for me, so that Tinkerbell, who's supposed to be 6 inches high, is just not walking through the parks. You know, we want to give them a sense of place. So,
great. On the side in the dark shirt.
Fred Topel with Sci-Fi Wire. I loved the part in the Toy Story 3 trailer where the old home video dissolves to the graduation photo. Yeah. And it made me think, what have Buzz and Woody's reaction to other milestones been, like maybe when Andy got his driver's license at 16 or went on his first date?
Well, in Toy Story 3, when we were really starting to think about what the what the idea, that we could do for the third movie, we really just tapped into kind of our own what's going on in our own lives, because Toy Story is that. It's between myself and Andrew Stanton, Joe Ranft, Pete Docter. It's really so much of our own lives are in these characters and these situations, and I think for me, as we were developing the story, I had just dropped my son Ben off at Loyola Marymount university here in Los Angeles, and I was thinking, it's in Los Angeles, I'm down here all the time, but I tell you, driving away when you leave your child behind at a college, all I could think about was when he was a little kid sliding down the slide. So it was very emotional for me and my wife, and so that's one of the things that we wanted to tap into with Toy Story 3, that kind of similar emotions. And I think that's with Buzz and Woody have been there the whole time through his life, and it's a very special moment in their lives, and so it's kind of a really fun time to tell the story.
But did you imagine the milestones in between in the Toy Story?
Not really. I mean, just other than our own, sort of things that were taking place, around the time of the film.
Great. And the second to the last row, hand up. Right, you. Yes.
Mr. Lasseter, thank you for being here this weekend, and above all else, thank you for everything you've done for animation, both computer and hand-drawn. My question is, I'm very excited about the next sequel to Toy Story and also to Cars. Are there any ideas to possibly make sequels to The Incredibles or possibly Monsters, Inc. In the future, with you as the Chief Creative Officer? Thank you.
Well, it's a great question. It really is a great question. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question right now. I can't talk about that. It's a good. It started with a compliment. That was nice. But no, I really. We're very excited about about the ones we've announced, because we at Pixar. It's really important to, as I always have mentioned, you've heard me say it before, but you have to do the three things really well. Tell a compelling story, populate with memorable and appealing characters, and put that story and those characters in a believable world. And what's exciting about coming back to doing a sequel is the characters in the world are created, and it's fun to start thinking of new and different stories that you could tell with them. And we're real excited about with Toy Story 3 and with Cars 2 and the things that we're doing there.
Second row in the hat.
Leo Holzer, Bay Area News Group, Vallejo Times-Herald. You've used lots of quotes from Walt Disney. Quality is a great business plan, so on and so forth. What are the lessons you've learned as a student of Disney, kind of looking at his life, and how excited are you about the museum in San Francisco?
that Walt Disney himself, I was so fortunate to be at a particular place in time. I went to Cal Arts in the very first year of the character animation program, and my teachers were these great Disney artists that they had pulled out of retirement: Jack Hanna, Ken O'Connor, Elmer Plummer, Teehee, among others. And one of the things that I enjoyed the most in those classes was in the afternoon they would just start reminiscing and telling stories of working with Walt Disney. And it's interesting to hear those stories. And then when I got to the studio with Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson were two of my biggest mentors there, and just kind of hearing stories. And it's interesting how that is a part of my education as much as sort of learning how to draw and learning the principles of animation and film grammar and those kinds of things. And it's interesting when you go back, because one of the things that Walt I heard a lot about, and I kind of really sort of try to emulate, is that he was always trying to push the technology of the films. He was one of the great innovators in film history, Walt Disney and the studio. And you think about all of the things that they developed there, but they were always in the service of story. It was always about taking the story to new heights. The other thing he did is he constantly was teaching his artists. The Don Graham, he worked with Chenard Art Institute at the time, which was one of the schools that Disney bought that he formed Cal Arts with, and so we actually at Pixar and at Disney Animation, we have an internal, at Pixar we call it the Pixar University. It's an internal group that we constantly are teaching our artists to become better and better, because you have to be constantly growing as studios. So I think those things, and it's just his focus on story and heart. And I think if you think back to each of his films, I mean they're truly timeless. And that's the thing that is when you create a film, it's really hard to do. It takes 4 years of your life to make a movie, and all of the Pixar films have been 100% original stories. And it is a challenge to sit there, start with a clean sheet of paper, and start thinking about what you could do with with these stories and these characters, and how you can entertain audiences. And it's something that I always think about, of making sure these films are timeless. Where we don't choose topical humor or subjects or things, and we want to. And Steve Jobs, when I was, who's my partner at Pixar all these years, he was talking to me while I was making Toy Story, and he said, John, the computers that I make at Apple, they have a lifespan of maybe 3 to 5 years, 5 years at the most, and then they're basically a doorstop, because the technology keeps moving forward. And he said, but if you do your job right, this movie could last forever. And that's something we really focus on. And when you watch a film like Snow White or Pinocchio, or especially Bambi, when you watch Bambi up on a big screen, it entertains audiences today as well as movies off, in generations in the future. So, well, Winnie the Pooh has a really great presence there, which is a terrific ride there, and we're going to be fixing up as part of that. It's going to have a nice sense of place for people with a Winnie the Pooh there. We have a place for Tinkerbell, and the Pixie Hollow is definitely going to have a place there, and so it's so far, Rapunzel is so new, it hasn't found its place there yet. No, but I think I'm really excited about Tinkerbell and the other places there, and I think it's much needed. It's going to be spectacular. For those who don't know, they've announced some of the Imagineering we've been working on for quite a long time. Is really what to do with the Fantasyland and the Magic Kingdom in Florida, and it's a really terrific plan that they've come up with. It's going to be spectacular, and it's much needed. There's a saying that they say that the smallest guests stand in the longest line for the shortest rides, and so it's something that we really intend to address that, and it's going to be really a wonderful addition to that park.
See, front row right there.
Yes, Winnie the Pooh is going to be hand animated. So, and yes, we hope to be doing a lot more films of that. The Walt Disney Animation Studios is the only studio in the world that's really doing the computer animation and hand animation in the same studio. Very excited about that. I've always felt that hand-drawn animation is there's certain subject matters and things that you can do with hand-drawn animation that you can't really do that well with computer animation, and vice versa. And I think that's the thing that at Pixar all these years, it's something where we really took pride in in choosing the subject matter that lends itself to computer animation. Now with hand-drawn animation, it's picking the subject matters that lend itself to hand-drawn animation. I think with The Princess and the Frog, it's a great example of that. It's the setting being in New Orleans in the bayou. It is there's with the talking animal characters along with the human characters. There's a sense of fantasy you get with hand-drawn animation. And actually, one of the things, if you think about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and you think of the dwarf characters, those to me are always an example of that's something you still can hardly do in computer animation well. It's so, the squash and stretch, the flexibility of them, the floppiness of the clothes, all that stuff, and a sense of character about those. And I think that's what's really great. It showed in the sequence out of Princess and the Frog where you got to see Louis the alligator. I mean, it's animated by one of the really great, Eric Goldberg, one of the great Disney animators. He's fantastic. And there's a certain life that you have with that character in a squash and stretch, and in the flexibility and the energy that you get with that. And it's something that is really special in hand-drawn animation. And, but then when you get Buzz Lightyear, or Woody, you can't do that. It wouldn't be the same in hand-drawn animation because you get to see the texture of them. They really feel like toys, and so that's where it's really, we do think very closely about, choosing the subject matter that lends itself with the medium in which you're using. No, I didn't really feel responsible for it. I never quite understood why the studios didn't think that people would want to watch it. I find it's interesting. It's like, because we were working so hard at Pixar and doing these films, and people just loved our films, everybody just looked over at that and said, oh, that's what people want to watch these days is computer animation. And it's like, imagine this. Imagine in the live-action world, two studios, where one studio is making really successful films that people love, and the other studio is doing okay films, pretty good films. And so the pretty good film studio is looking over at this studio going, oh, I get it. I know why our films aren't doing as well. We're using a different camera. We're going to now start making movies with that camera, and everyone will love our movies. That's ridiculous, and everybody knows that. That's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. Brad Bird puts it most beautifully. Animation is not a genre of film. Animation is a medium. What we make is films. First and foremost, we make films, and our focus is making good films, right? We choose the right subject matter that lend itself to our medium, so you can't imagine this film in any other medium. And so I never quite understood why, what audiences didn't want to watch was bad movies. Anderson always said that 2D animation became the scapegoat for bad storytelling, and I think that's an honest truth. And so to us, when we came back, it's like, I love animation. I'm doing what I do for a living, my life's work. I've devoted my life to this one thing in creating animation because of these films, and they meant that much to me, right? And so to me, I wanted to come back, and I wanted to, because it's a gorgeous medium. It's a gorgeous art form. When you see this work at the highest level, like Princess and the Frog, and that's what we've been dedicated to do. And honestly, you have never met a group of artists that are more dedicated to proving something than the group of artists that have made Princess and the Frog. And this film is just beautiful. And so I'm really excited. And it just, when you sit and watch this film, it's so fun in the music and the fairy tale nature of it and all. I think it's really great, and I think it'll be timeless as well because it has that kind of quality.
Great, right here in the front.
Yes, my name is Jim Madden. Excuse me. My name is Jim Manning from two sites, moviepropcollectors.com and a new site that's going to start called DisneyX.com. And I noticed when you showed Prep and Landing, the quality, it was just incredible. Was there any plans with trying to combine like the two different styles between hand-drawn and 3D or even live action with all or part of the different types of animation?
For that project?
Oh, well, for any of the projects in the future, or I mean, it just looked incredible about how that looked, the quality.
Well, yeah, you know, again, it's like thinking of the story and letting the story kind of choose the, you know, how you make the movie. And I think with Prep and Landing, you looked at it and it just was. There's sort of it combines the kind of special forces, kind of covert nature along with Christmas, and that the juxtaposition of imagery and things and gadgets and fun, you know, just was so special, you know, and I thought, well, it's really perfect for computer animation because of that kind of subject matter and the style of the filmmaking. And so that's what we wanted to do there. And I think we let the movies, you know, kind of the stories and the directors, most importantly the filmmakers, kind of think about sort of how they want to make the movies. But honestly, you know, for me personally, I'm an animator. That's what I like to do. I love to create animation. I love the fantasy of it. I love the worlds that you can create. I love showing people something that they've never seen before, you know. And even though we work with, you know, developing at Pixar, you know, we've developed a lot of computer animation technology out there in the world, and we always, the part of what computer animation can do is the photorealistic nature of it, but we tend to take a step back from that and produce something the audience knows does not exist, but then use those tools so it's like, okay, I know it doesn't exist, but boy, it sure looks real. And that's the kind of fun place I like in computer animation, I like to put people's, you know, the audience as part of the entertainment. Well, you know, I mean, you don't have to sit there and promote it for that, because every movie, regardless of the, you know, how it's made, is eligible, you know, for Best Picture. So that's the thing I'm very excited about. I'm really excited that the Academy has done that. I mean, it's part of their history. Up until I think it was 1948, they had 10 nominations all the time, and I think it's exciting to sort of open it up, and it'll I think, you know, hopefully get some more you know, popular films being nominated. And of course I have my fingers crossed about the movies I've worked on, so I'm really excited. Well, that, you know, it's clear to say that Up was one of, you know, the thing is, the Disney marketing group is fantastic. I mean, they've done such a great job with all our films, but they're kind of used to us, because we first gave them, you know, talking cars, and then we gave them a rat that wants to work in a kitchen, you know, in the finest restaurant in Paris. Then we had a robot on basically a version of the planet Earth that's pretty much dead, and there's no dialogue for the first 20 minutes, and then now we have an adventure with a 72-year-old guy, and the climactic battle is with another old guy, you know, and it's like, but that's Pixar, right? That's Pixar, and the one thing that we promise is that we will make great movies, you know, and we promise you that you've never seen it before in your life, you know. And I think that's what's, you know, that's what's great about, you know, Disney, is that they've been so supportive, you know, because it's now been 3.5 years that we've been a part of Disney. And before that, though, we were partners with them in all our movies. And it's been so fantastic that they have been there. Even Toy Story. It's like, you know, everybody was worried with Toy Story that it would be something just for kids. They literally, you know, early in it, they said, well, no teenager's going to want to go see a movie with toy in the title. Right, you know, and it's a story about toys. You know, it's going to be just for kids. No one's going to want to come. And we thought, well, no, it's a good movie. You know, and then insects. You know, most people find insects creepy. It's monsters. It's like, oh, I don't know, my little kid's scared of monsters. You know, and so we kind of, you know, do it again and again and again. Superheroes, The Incredibles. It's like, there's a billion superhero movies. What's different about this one? So, but that's who we are as a filmmakers. We take these subjects and do something so special, and it touches the audience and touches families, because it's the kind of movies we make. Movies for the movies that we like to watch, you know. And I just love Disney in so much, and it's the reason why I do what I do. And I think it's so exciting to be back at the Disney Animation Studios. A lot of people have asked, I'll ask myself a question for you guys.
Identify yourself, please.
John Lasseter. One of the things that we've asked a lot is what is different about Pixar with the movies going forward. What's going to be different about Pixar and Disney, right? There's both doing animation, both doing computer animation. What's going to be different? And a studio is its people, not the building it's in. And what's great about these is that there are two sets of filmmakers. The one thing we did bring from Pixar to Disney is the notion of a filmmaker-led studio. So the ideas are coming from the filmmakers, coming from the hearts of the filmmakers. It's not a bunch of development executives that are looking at marketing studies and thinking about, what's selling in the toy world or this or that. That's not what we do. It comes from the filmmakers, and everybody's there because they want to be there. They want to make movies. They want to make animation. It's the whole studio is that way, and it's exciting to have studios that are led by people who all they've ever wanted to do was animation. That's it from being kids. The entire studios are that way, both of them. And what's exciting is that you'll see very different things coming from both studios because of the filmmakers. The other thing is each studio is really proud of its own heritage. And they're very different. At Pixar, it's a studio we created ourselves, and it's founded upon new technology. And in Northern California, the merger of Silicon Valley and Hollywood filmmaking, and it's coming together, and it's something unique. And at Disney, everyone is so proud of working at the same studio that Walt Disney started in 1923, and it's never closed its doors. It's always made animation. And this new group of filmmakers are there. They're so proud to be carrying on that. And our films have Walt Disney's name on them. And they look, we look at these films, and we say, look, the films are going to have Walt Disney's name on it. We have got to make it as good as the films he made, because they set the bar really high. Walt Disney and the Nine Old Men and those guys. When you watch these timeless classics that he made, and we don't want to just copy them. We want to make films that are fresh and original, as original as those films were in their day. But they could sit on the shelf right next to them, and everybody could look at them, and these are just as good. And I think it's exciting to have that heritage and to be a part of that.
Great.